Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you are, Solve.Care community. This is Pradeep Goel, and I'm delighted to spend some time with you today and giving you an update. So let's get started, and thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you can hear me well, and I'm going to cover a fair bit of topics with you today. The most important thing that I want you to take away from today is the continued expansion and growth of the company and the community and our product. And I have a fair bit of activity that I want to share with you all in terms of what we are doing. So let's get started without any further ado. I'm going to share with you a presentation, and then let's go from there. So our agenda today is to ensure that we are keeping the community completely in the loop on what we are doing. And today, I want to cover with you our planned equity round. Before we get started, I want to make sure that all of you understand that this is not a solicitation or an advertisement or a request for any participation in any kind of security sale or purchase or sale by you or by us in any company, including Solve.Care. This is an information session for the community to know what we are doing, but we are not making a solicitation. We don't expect you to buy any stock as a result of the solicitation. And in fact, there is no mechanism to do so today. But this is describing our plans and our opportunities that we see in front of us. And as our lawyers require us to do, everything that I say here today is an informational webinar. It is designed to educate and inform you as an interested party in the Solve.Care project, in the Solve.Care company, in our expansion in the market. And this is really a webinar that you should consider purely in the context of education and information. Should not use anything I say here today to make any investment decisions regarding Solve.Care or any other company for that matter. So what are we going to cover? 7 topics. As you have heard us speak publicly before, Solve.Care is considering doing an equity sale. So I'll explain today what is the equity sale that we are doing and why are we planning to do this? What impact, if any, will it have on the Solve community? Our Asia expansion plans in particular, that is driving our decision to do an equity sale. And what exactly will we use the funds for? And what happens next after this webinar? And if time permits, we will certainly do with you a series of Q&A. So let's begin with the first topic. So first, what is an equity sale? So those of you who don't know the term equity or equity sale, basically it is a sale of shares in a company to qualified investors under various applicable securities laws. So an equity sale is traditionally is the sale of traditional shares in any company. And we at Solve.Care are considering to sell a minority share in the Solve.Care organization. Approximately 10% of the company's shares is what we are looking to sell to qualified investors. And this is really important. Equity sales must be done under securities laws that apply. And investment bankers are typically hired to ensure that these sales are done in the right way to the right party with the appropriate qualifications. So we are going to do this in a very traditional, conservative, and compliant way. And we will only sell shares to those who qualify under the various applicable laws. So this is a traditional stock sale. This happens all the time in companies who are looking to grow. And we're going to follow a very traditional path of ensuring that whoever invests in Solve.Care has the rights and the appropriate information to make that decision, and they're working through the appropriate parties, lawyers and investment advisors to do so. Now, why are we planning to do an equity sale? The reason is very simple. It's a great reason, but it's a simple reason. So we made plans at the beginning of 2017 for 3 years. We updated our plans at the beginning of 2018, and then we updated again at the beginning of 2019. And what I can say to you is that our market opportunity is growing so rapidly that we are exceeding our best case scenario. When we do planning, we do sort of the must-do scenario and we do the best case scenario. And the must-do scenario is what you plan for, and the best case scenario is what you strive for. And the goal always is to make sure that you don't miss out on delivering the must-do targets. But then if you can, you also should try to do better. Well, we are doing better than the best scenario we have in terms of market opportunity. And that means that we must act. We must act now to gain the 3 shares that matter in the end. For any organization, any project, any company, market share, which is in terms of number of clients that you have and number of clients you expect to sign out of all the available clients in the market. The mind share in terms of thought leadership, in terms of being seen as a leader, in terms of innovation and value, and revenue share of the money that is being spent in your sector by your clients. What percentage of the revenue do you capture? Those 3 shares define success and failure of any company, be it a giant Fortune 10 or be it a startup. So when you have an opportunity like ours, where globally there is interest in our platform, then we need to be able to move quickly. And then we also need to make sure that there are people who are willing to support you in that expansion strategy, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And the reason you do an equity sale fundamentally is because you want to sign more clients and you want to have faster adoption of your product. So we stand at the cusp of this major opportunity to gain market share, mind share, and revenue share. And our leadership position in the market is such that we are no longer having to answer the question, what can you do for me, or whether you're going to be around, but rather, let's talk about timelines and let's talk about cost and let's talk about implementation plans. So that means that we need to look at accelerating our growth fundamentally, because no matter how fast we are growing, the market is demanding more from us, and that's a great thing. So when the opportunity knocks, the best equipped companies jump to take advantage of that opportunity. And that best equipped companies are the ones with product, with management teams, and with the right capital. We have the first 2, but given the size of the opportunity in front of us, we feel it is time for us to bring in additional capital into the company. Now, the real question that arises for all our Solve token holders is, will it impact me in any kind of a way? Well, Solve is a utility token, right? Solve community is a utility token holder community. And we have been very careful in making sure that the utility token, as the access token to the platform and the currency of the platform, is completely and thoroughly vetted as a utility token. So a sale of shares in the equity has no negative impact on the Solve utility token and the Solve utility token holders, because it does not in any way change your rights or your ability to use the token to do the things you intended to do with it in the first place. The equity holders exist today, except they are primarily the founders of the company. If we expand the equity holder table to bring in some additional serious capital providers and have them sit at the table with us to help us grow the company, it is to the advantage of all. No one, clients, partners, or token holders, will see a negative impact. But on the other hand, if you can get bigger clients to adopt our platform faster and more Care wallets are adopted by more people, then that's a good thing for card developers, that's a good thing for token holders, that's a good thing for service partners, and that's a good thing for integration partners, and certainly that is a good thing for the company. But it does not have a negative ramification for the Solve token holders, because it doesn't mean we're going to issue more Solve tokens. It doesn't mean that the purpose of Solve token as a utility token will change. It doesn't mean that now you don't need Solve token. Of course you do. So do our clients. So do our care administration sponsors. So do our consumers and Care wallet holders who want to consume services in the Care wallet. None of that changes. But what does change is that now we have, along with the founders and the management team, experienced capital partners who can help us scale the company globally faster, with less risk and less friction in terms of the growth. So there is no impact that we can foresee today or in the future that should worry a Solve token holder regarding how will this equity round hurt you or impact you. It doesn't. It simply makes a company grow faster and be bigger and be more successful. Now, I want to switch to something much more fun here. The reason we are doing this equity round is of a really interesting and simple problem, which is that when in Q4 2018, I came to you all and I said that we are going to expand in Asia, I shared with you my thoughts that Asia will drive our growth sooner than we planned. If you remember, originally we thought that 2020 is when we will go into Asia with appropriate product and the ability to launch care networks in Asia. And we were primarily focused on both launch care networks in Asia. And we were primarily focused on both the benefit-sponsored networks and open networks that any consumer can join. As we look at the opportunity growing in Asia, as we look at the interest both from benefit sponsors as well as from individuals looking for better healthcare services, we are finding that we underestimated the desire, the appetite, the excitement around Solve.Care platform. So our core value proposition is not only really gaining hold in North America with the insurers and with large employers. It's also really drawing interest from many parts of Asia and really across the globe. But when you have so much opportunity, you also need to be very careful how you deliver on that opportunity. And you need to pick where it makes the most sense to spend your time and energy. And we've decided that in addition to North America, where we have tremendous traction, we would also be best served if we start to treat Asia as our second biggest, in fact, the biggest market, but our second biggest focus in the immediate future. So Asia has become now a significant focus for us beyond what we even thought 3 months ago. And what that means is that we need some serious partners and facilitators of our growth in Asia. So today's webinar, I want to really take the time here to explain to you that we are very, very fortunate, very pleased that we have partnered after a seven-month search with an elite investment advisory firm who can help us not only grow our company in Asia, but also find strategic partners in Asia, as well as raise capital from Asian venture capital, private equity, and high net worth. Raise capital from Asian venture capital, private equity, and high net worth individuals. This will help us realize our full potential in the region. So let's think about this for a moment. Not only are we saying that Asia is important and we're going to focus on it, we're actually demonstrating to everyone, clients, consumers, partners, with this step, that we really expect Solve.Care to be fully and properly centered and focused in Asia as a second biggest market after our North American footprint. So again, I'm very pleased to announce that we have an incredibly powerful, elite, very well selected organization that has signed the agreement with us to represent us in various ways in the Asian market. So let me introduce you to the Vetus Partners. So Vetus Partners is an elite and unique strategy and deal advisory firm. They have offices in Seoul, Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, and they also have representations in San Francisco in the Silicon Valley. And the reason they are very interesting for us is that they bring a unique experience both in the capital markets, which is equity market and debt markets, but also in the blockchain space. So that combination of experience, real experience in serving blockchain companies, which are relatively new, and the experience of working with large-scale equity rounds, as well as having access to key partners, key marquee brands, is very, very important and very difficult to find. So we were on a search since mid last year to third quarter of last year for Asian partners, mid last year to third quarter of last year for Asian partners. And we're very lucky that through referrals and through extensive due diligence, both parties have agreed to come together to launch the Solve.Care's footprint in Asia at a dramatically larger level than we could do ourselves. Footprint in Asia at a dramatically larger level than we could do ourselves. Now, why did we choose Vitis? The reason we chose them is, first, we wanted to make sure that we are dealing with a highly reputable company that has the deep experience in equity sales. So we found that their senior execs are from very experienced, have the experience in the right kind of companies, McKinsey and investment banks and private equity companies and tech giants. So that's great, because you got to understand the space if you're going to represent any company in the space. We wanted to make sure that somebody who's operating out of Asia is not just focused on Asia, but have really a global perspective. So we looked at their experience in serving companies and advising companies in their expansion and access to markets in London and Hong Kong and Singapore and New York and Seoul and Seattle and San Francisco. This gave us a pretty broad coverage across the planet, because smart partners and smart capital is everywhere, not just in one place. But the biggest reason that we found them to be very attractive is their deep involvement with some significant blockchain projects. The two most prominent that they allowed us to share with you, KakaoTalk, which is a big messenger solution in Korea with a massive valuation, and Icon, which is another major enterprise blockchain solution provider. Both of these companies were very well advised by Vitis, and they are both, of course, major blockchain brands. And that gives Vitis a unique position in the market of having access to companies that are working with KakaoTalk and Icon and working for KakaoTalk and Icon. So it's really wonderful to have someone who understands a blockchain space as well as a capital market space. And last but not the least, the two companies spent a lot of time doing due diligence on each other. We talked literally dozens of times. Our board due diligence on each other. We talked literally dozens of times. Our board looked at them in every which way they could. We hired independently people to investigate it and research each other to make sure that the companies that are going to work with each other are truly of the right caliber. And they turned every stone over about Solve.Care to make sure that they know who they're dealing with, and we did the same for them. So having spent months on this process, we recently concluded the agreement with them, and we are already working together in many ways. But one of the key ways that Vitis is working with us is to find us. But one of the key ways that Vitis is working with us is to find us key strategic partners in Korea, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, from technology perspective, from client perspective, and from strategic footprint perspective. Now, that to me is the most important thing. You can have partners who look good on paper, but in the end, the value of a partnership is in what it does for the client, what it does for the community, right? Otherwise, it's just something esoteric that nobody really cares about. And what we are focused on with Vitis and already seeing tremendous progress on is this focus on finding both capital and technology and resale and solution partners, starting in, but certainly not limited to, Korea, Hong Kong, and then expanding to the other Asian presence areas. So this is a fantastic way to get a partnership started, because we want to expand in Asia. We have a clear opportunity there, and they become a vehicle for us to convert that opportunity into real. We have a clear opportunity there, and they become a vehicle for us to convert that opportunity into real revenue and to real success. Next thing I want to talk about is, so let's assume that we are successful, and we will be. Now, what are we going to do with it? So really, if you think of where Solve.Care is and where Solve.Care is going, it's got a 5-step plan. If you think of it as achieving the evolution from a small to early stage company to a true sustainable and a global organization, what do you have to do? Well, you have to first gain market share, because without market share, a global organization, what do you have to do? Well, you have to first gain market share, because without market share, you are one of many. Market share makes companies heard. Market share makes a company respected, and market share brings the right partners to them. Market share brings you the strength to compete, as well as to have the brand that is identifiable and associated with what you do. So market share is simply counted in number of clients and number of wallets. But then at some point, market share has to convert into cash flow. Companies that just grow but burn money to grow eventually have to respond to the investor's request for and demand for where is the revenue. So market share is, for the sake of market share, only works so long. You have to then produce cash flow. And once you have cash flow, then the question is, do you have profits? Because with cash flow without profits is still negative cash flow, which means somebody's funding your organization every day. That doesn't work very long. But once you have profits, then it becomes a question of acquiring other assets, which may be competitive or strategically important, so that you can essentially create a complete solution, a complete offering, sort of cradle to grave, soup to nuts, beginning to end solution. And that typically means that you acquire other established beginning to end solution. And that typically means that you acquire other established players to round out the picture. And then that makes you IPO ready, meaning now you are ready for a long-term, sustainable, massive organizational growth, because now you can tap into public funds, whether you do an IPO or some other mechanism, but you have to demonstrate the first four. In my mind, that is a journey towards sustainability. Now, many of you might say, why IPO when there are so many other options? To me, IPO stands for, and IPO means the word IPO means initial public offering, or basically listing your company on a stock exchange like New York Stock Exchange or London or Frankfurt or Singapore or Hong Kong. And it comes with a tremendous responsibility to govern the company properly, to manage public funds better, but to use them properly, to manage public funds better, but to use them properly. But to me, IPO actually represents something else. To me, IPO represents maturity and transparency and quality and governance and sustainability. Maturity and transparency and quality and governance and sustainability. So the way I look at it, Solve.Care shouldn't be forced into an IPO situation, but Solve.Care should be ready to do an IPO. Should have all the items checked off that makes a company IPO worthy. And if we need to do an IPO because that's the right thing to do for everyone, for you and for us and for clients and partners, we will do it. And if we find that IPO is not the right time, then we wait or we take another way. But the foundational strength that comes from being IPO ready makes you an incredibly strong organization that is unbeatable in the market, and your competition is forced to follow your game instead of you following their game. So in this journey, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this immediate equity round will help us accelerate our market share. And I hope to accomplish bullets 1, 2, and 3 if we can do this. But I certainly think that if we just achieve bullet 1 of significant market share, we would have. But I certainly think that if we just achieve bullet 1 of significant market share, we would have exceeded most expectations. But of course, it'll be great if we can leverage this round of capital to hit bullet 1, 2, and 3. Even with extraordinary execution, and if we achieve 1, 2, and 3, we probably will have to raise more capital to buy other companies, meaning bullet 4 and 5. And that's okay, because we will be very far down the road in terms of size and scale and presence, where raising additional money to do bullet 4 and 5 will come at a favorable terms, and people will essentially stand in line to give us funds to do the acquisitions. But let's make sure that we focus in line to give us funds to do the acquisitions. But let's make sure that we focus on 1, 2, and 3. And that's what I tell my team every day. This round of capital must give us not only market share, but we should demonstrate how the market share turns into cash flow, and if at all possible, and we should do everything possible to turn the cash flow into profitable cash flow. So what happens next? What happens next is that Solve.Care will continue its excellent track of focus and execution. Those of you who follow us know that we don't sit still. We don't let grass grow under our feet. And every single day, if not every week, we are definitely bringing to you news about what we have accomplished in terms of product or partnerships or clients, bringing to you news about what we have accomplished in terms of product or partnerships or clients. So continues to execute. And it's relentless in its execution with or without this equity sale. And that will continue. Nothing changes. And as I've said before, we have significant market opportunity in hand, and we should close as much business as possible without any change of strategy and in alignment with resources. And this is the key point, in alignment with resources. Today, given the opportunity in front of us, we can probably safely address maybe 10% of our pipeline, because there is just too much demand for our platform. There's just too much request for care cards. There's just too many care networks that are being asked of us to stand up. And we cannot possibly do them all and do them well, because we are still a 100% company. And we must not fail when we promise something to someone. So clearly, we must pursue only as much business as we can align with our resources. But as we raise additional capital, we need to scale our resources, both from business development all the way to delivery and support of our clients. So we will always pursue as much business as we think we can deliver correctly and without causing any loss of reputation or loss of ability to deliver. We always want to deliver on our promises. But as the equity round shows success, we will then up our targets quite a bit. And with or without this equity sale, we have numerous really, really big initiatives underway that are going to be announced in the next few weeks. However, with the capital raise happening, we are going to then also add the capital raise itself as a milestone. But on the product side, on the market share side, and on the mind share side, we continue to take continue to make progress in huge stride. Continue to make progress in huge steps forward. So I'm very pleased with the fact that the company is executing relentlessly and beautifully. But I want to accelerate the speed at which the company is moving and the breadth of opportunity that the company is pursuing by using this capital raise as an enabler and as a value creator. I've covered most of what I wanted to cover today in terms of the presentation. So that leaves us a fair bit of time to gather questions from the community. So I am going to ask my team to see if we have any questions already posted by any of you. And I will take a minute pause here and see what questions are sent to me on Viber by my team, who is monitoring the chat groups to see what you guys want to ask me. Okay, here is one question that I would like to address right away. The question is, what happens if the equity sale does not succeed? I've touched upon that already, but I'll speak to that again clearly. The equity sale is a growth accelerator. As you all know, we are growing. Sale is a growth accelerator. As you all know, we are growing at a remarkable speed already. And we are seeing tremendous adoption and excitement and initiatives around our platform by our clients. So the equity sale is purely an enabler. And we are going to continue to execute even if in the low probability scenario that we decide to cancel the equity sale process. And we may choose to do that because we find that the equity sale terms are not favorable process. And we may choose to do that because we find that the equity sale terms are not favorable to the company, or we're not getting the kind of quality capital partners as we want, because it's not just about the money, it's also about the quality of the capital partner who can open doors for us. So we will or we will not close the equity round if the terms are not to our liking. But the good news is that we are seeing already enough interest to be quite confident that our equity sale will be well subscribed or oversubscribed by qualified investors. So that's not the issue. The issue is making sure that the terms that we get and the terms we accept are appropriate. Having said that, if in the low probability scenario that we don't do an equity sale. We have the same momentum as today. We're not going to take our eyes off the ball, and we're going to continue to execute the way you have come to expect from us. The second question is, why have we decided to focus on Korea and Asia? Well, it's a very simple thing. Wallets, right? I want to see as many wallets in the hands of as many people as I can make happen. I want to see as many wallets in the hands of as many people as I can make happen. And I've been told to switch to the camera. So let me do that so you can all see me. Okay, so the question about why Asia, if you think about where the greatest needs are, there are really two types of audience we're after. First audience is the sponsored healthcare benefit audience. Anybody who's insured by an insurance company or by their employer or by their government agency is a beautiful target for us. Because sponsored benefits means sponsored care network, where we can deliver tremendous value to the wallet holder through sponsored care network, where we can deliver tremendous value to the wallet holder through the power of the care network. But there is a second audience, which is equally important. And that audience is those who don't have any sponsored care. They're not insured by an insurance company. They don't have a large employer or an employer offering them healthcare. They don't have access to a government program for which they qualify. That audience is served by what we call the open network. So we have the sponsored network and the open network, both on Solve.Care platform, both accessed through the Care wallet. When you look at the Asian market, the US is primarily a sponsored care model. So we're going to have a lot of sponsored care networks on the Solve.Care platform, be it by insurance companies or by government agencies or by employers and actually platform, be it by insurance companies or by government agencies or by employers and actually really all of the above. But in Asia, there's equal division. There is actually more unsponsored care participants, and there are fast growing sponsored care participants. So when you look at the profile, the healthcare system model that is evolving in Asia, in China, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in all developing countries, we find that we have opportunity to sell both types of networks there. And the volume of people in both those networks are much, much bigger. So follow the population, follow the wallet holders. We could launch 1 billion care wallets in Asia within a few years. And that obviously makes it very important for us to focus there. So using the old adage, follow the money, in our case, follow the wallets. And we expect and clearly see from our profiling and data analytics that we can move both the sponsored care network and the open care networks into Asia and get adoption in a rapid speed. There are many factors that are involved in that. Of course, it's not as easy to say and do, but we are going to make sure that we are able to penetrate the both tracks of expansion, the sponsored care networks and the open networks, and do so at an aggressive pace. And that's the sponsored care networks and the open networks, and do so at an aggressive pace. And that's the reason why we are focused on Asia. In Korea, we are focused on it because it's a very tech-savvy nation, because they have tremendous, you all, in those who are dialing in from Korea, you have a tremendous appreciation for technology, for blockchain, for cryptocurrencies, but really, this is a society that is very open to innovation. So we're seeing Korea as a small enough but big enough microcosm where we can launch our products, test and get feedback from very engaged society, and use that to way to improve our go-to-market strategy in the rest of Asia. So it's, to us, an incredible place to test Asia. So it's, to us, an incredible place to test and to launch and to harden our strength before we go into and expand all over the place. But the answer in short is we are not focused just on Korea. We see ourselves serving the billions of people who live in Asia who need either a better sponsored benefit model or they need an open benefit model where there is no sponsor to take care of them. And we are addressing both of those opportunities. And I'll talk about that in a subsequent seminar, the difference between sponsored benefits and open networks. But more on that later. Let's continue with the questions. So the next question is, how are you forming the valuation of Solve.Care? That's a how are you forming the valuation of Solve.Care? That's a really good question. Obviously, when you take investment from someone, and as I mentioned at the beginning of it, 10% of the company shares are what we are expecting to sell in this round. How would you know how much the company is worth? And that's called company valuation. That is actually the primary function of Vidus. As an investment advisor, their job is to compare Solve.Care to Vidus. As an investment advisor, their job is to compare Solve.Care to all other projects that are similar in nature around the world, and particularly in the sectors that we play in. It's their job to say, are we better or worse or equal or greater than the value of these companies that are public or private? If it's a public company, they can just go to the stock market and look at the rates of their stock. If it's a private company, they have to apply other mechanisms of valuation. And then they do averaging and triangulation and triaging. And then they come up with the appropriate private company discount. And they say to us, Solve.Care, we think you are worth this much based on the comparables in the market, meaning other companies like you, what are they worth, as well as the potential of Solve.Care and the unique features of Solve.Care. This is the job of the investment advisor. Of course, every entrepreneur thinks that their company is the best and it's worth a fortune, and every buyer of the stock, you are too early and you're really risky and you're not worth half as much as I think you are. The job of the investment advisor is to find the truth between those two extreme points of view. Investors are always going to be very bullish on their value, and the founders will be very bullish on their value. Investors will be very skeptical of the value. And finding that happy medium is the job of an investment advisor, and they have to do it using metrics and data and analytics and comparables, and certainly market expertise, and analytics and comparables, and certainly market expertise, and opinion and availability of capital, and so on. So we are very pleased to have Vidus with us in this journey. I know they will disagree with me and my management team more often than not, and that's their job. And I know they will bring to us a dose of reality when we think we are here and they think we are there. And that bridging of the gap of expectations between and supply of capital is what investment advisors do, including setting the valuation of the company. Now, I've been through this journey many, many times before. This is not new. It's never really fun. But when you have the right partner with you, it's always fair. And that's what I'm looking for. And that's what we have experienced so far in working with Vidus as our partner. The next question is, what is the ultimate end goal for Solve as a company? If you could choose only one, New York Stock Exchange or a multi-continent care network serving 1 billion people? Well, that's a great question. I mean, of course, we would like both of them. But if we have to choose, we would choose the billion people. One, because that is our stated goal. Make the biggest impact for as many people, you and I, our parents, our children, to benefit from Solve.Care in a manner that leaves this world a better place, that our health and avoidable human suffering are dealt with, that our health and avoidable human suffering are dealt with. Having said that, having 1 billion people on your platform, you will get on New York Stock Exchange if you want to. That is not a trivial metric. So I would rather focus on the adoption of the wallet and maximizing the value of the wallet to as many different people on the planet. And the valuation of the company and the listing of the company on any stock exchange will take care of itself. Because when you create value, when you deliver value, you do have value. And that value is recognizable by everyone, be it NYSE or London Stock Exchange or the Hong Kong board. It doesn't matter. So absolutely, let's focus on market share. Let's focus on profitability of this market share and the resulting revenue. And let's make sure the adoption by people in real life is massive, and the rest of it will take care of itself. So next question is, what is the difference between open care and sponsored care market? So let me explain briefly. If Solve.Care client is an insurance company, then who are you concerned with in making sure that they have good health care? The people you insure. So in my previous life, when I was at an insurance company as an exec, I cared about people I insured, which I call my members. So my primary interest in that case is to create a care network on the Solve.Care platform that allows me to serve my members effectively. I want to give them access to the best doctor. I want to spend the least amount of money to get them out of the hospital. I want to make sure they don't get sick. And I want to make sure when they get, I want to spend the least amount of money to get them out of the hospital. I want to make sure they don't get sick. And I want to make sure when they get sick, they get the right care. And I want to pay the doctors quickly and efficiently for good results. And I don't want to pay doctors that don't produce good results, and so on. But who am I really focused on? My members. So I'm going to issue care wallets to those members, to those people who are members, and issue care cards to them such that they are a better consumer and a more effective patient, and that they recognize that I, as an insurer, am taking care of them. So those are my care cards. Now, if we don't have an insurance company involved, and if we don't have any such entity involved, and people literally are looking at Solve.Care as a way to improve their healthcare experience as individuals, as family members, as parents, as children, without anyone providing them a sponsored benefit, like an insurance company or employer or a government agency, then they would participate in what we call open networks. An open network is essentially sponsored by Solve.Care or by somebody who is really not defining your Solve.Care, or by somebody who is really not defining your participation criteria in their network based on some kind of membership or eligibility, but just the fact that they have a set of services, and if you like them, you can participate in their network and join them. For example, an open network example would be using our transportation provider, Lyft. We could launch an open network where we say, no matter where you live, where you work, which insurance company you're part of, you can use Download Care Wallet and use Lyft, embedded Lyft Care card to access a transportation from your home to your doctor, or for your mom, make sure she gets from her home to the doctor, and so on. Now, we would have to make sure that this network delivers services to patients in a manner that makes it compelling and attractive for them to use. Therefore, the care card has to make sense, but that would be an open network because it has no eligibility requirement. Similarly, if a pharmaceutical company said, look, we're going to create a global network on Solve.Care's platform, and we're going to let anybody who wants to buy a certain drug and has a prescription from the doctor for that drug to buy that drug in a more efficient manner, to get more education around how to use this drug properly, how to take it and when not to take it, and so on, and how to report the symptoms, then they could create a global network, an open network, which eligibility requirement, therefore, is that you should have a prescription for a specific drug or drugs, and you are able to join the network and really prescription for a specific drug or drugs, and you are able to join the network and really take better care of yourself or your parents or your children. So depending on how restrictive the participation rules are in a network will define how open or closed it is. So if the insurance company defines the rules of participation to be membership as in the insurance plan, then that's a pretty closed network. But if we define the rules of participation to be you're adult, you're 55 years and older, and you have diabetes, and if you have meet those criteria, you can join the network, then it's a pretty open network, right? So the difference between open and closed network is really how restrictive your participation rules are and how big a population that network can serve. And as I said earlier, we see both sponsored and open networks to grow rapidly in the US and in Asia, but really globally. I see no reason why this is not relevant to EU or to South America. But again, we have to make sure that we grow in a controlled manner, but we grow where the greatest opportunity lies. Will there be any method for conversion of Solve to shares? No, that is not an option. Solve is a utility token. It has no equity rights. It has no profit sharing rights. It has nothing that makes it a security. The only reason it has nothing that makes it a security. The only reason that one would ever allow a conversion is if Solve was initially and originally planned to be a security asset, which it wasn't, and it has never been treated as such. So our plan is to never link the two. Solve tokens are going to be used by an increasing number of people around the world to access their care wallets and to access these open or closed networks for various diseases, for various needs, for themselves and for their parents and for their kids. But that does not mean that we are going to link that to the shares of the company. There is no value in that, and it will be highly damaging to our ecosystem if we did that, because clients who are buying Solve tokens to essentially pay for license fees and or to transact Solve as a payment currency would suddenly end up owning security in Solve.Care, which they would not want to do, nor do we want them to have that right. Similarly, those who invest in our company and actually own shares in the company would be now also competing with clients for the same asset. So this is a very clear demarcation. Utility tokens do a very clear purpose, and stocks are for a very different purpose. And keeping them separate is essential if we ever want to be a public company without any kind of a conflict in the future. And certainly we would not want to violate any securities laws in this journey. So very clear demarcation, very clear separation, no potential of overlap. The next question is, has it been determined yet who is able to buy into the equity sale? So as I mentioned, that equity sales are subject to regulatory environment, and the regulatory environments are very different by different jurisdictions. So depending on where we do the equity sale, the regulatory environment will apply. So if we are selling our shares to investors in Hong Kong, then the Hong Kong regulation applies. And if we are selling our shares to investors in the US, then certainly US SEC rules will apply. It is a job of our investment advisor to decide the span of offering. And clearly we want them to only sell our shares where they have appropriate licenses or exemptions to represent us. So this is a question that will be very much a determination that will be done over the next 2 to 3 months. But what I can say is that the reason we put Vidas, the reason we picked them is because they have a very broad palette of jurisdictions where they currently operate. And from that palette of jurisdictions, they will help us choose the 1 or 2 or 3 where the regulatory framework and the compliance is most easily achieved, or they already have such licenses. And in that jurisdiction, then they will offer to the appropriately qualified investors. Again, we're talking about full compliance with regulations and laws. Nothing can be done without that. If you're ever going to be a public company, we have to do the things right every day. We cannot start doing things right when we're ready to go public. So it's a long journey, and we must continue that every single day in the right way. So having said all that, as soon as we have the jurisdictions announced, we will let you all know to the degree that we can. And the accreditation or the other qualifications of investors will also be known. One thing I want to make sure you all understand, there are clear laws against public solicitation of shares, of buyers of shares, pardon me. There are very clear rules as to when the company can announce what it can share informationally with whom, with what, and how much information is shared, what it can share informationally with whom, with what, and how much information is shared for what purposes. So we are going to stay within very strictly within the bounds of regulation and securities laws in making the share offering. We are telling all this to you because you have an interest in knowing where we are taking the company, because you have supported us. You are actively engaged in helping us think through the various opportunities in the market. The community at large has been a tremendous asset for us, but we also need to make sure that we stay compliant. So we will share with you the information we can within the boundaries of the applicable laws, securities, and otherwise. Okay, I think I have covered most of the questions. I'm going to see if there are any more coming through. This is an interesting question. How will you manage diverging interests between token holders and equity holders? It's a great question. They are actually very distinct and separate interests, right? The token holders are users of the platform. Token holders plan to use the Care wallet for themselves or sponsor care networks for their consumers or their patients or their members. And the token is both an access, like a subscription token, as well as a currency in the network. Versus shareholders, are focused primarily on the overall growth and profitability, the mind share, market share, and revenue share from a company perspective. They're non-competitive in the sense that one does not harm the other. They're divergent only in that they have two distinct roles, but they don't really diverge to a degree where they're divergent only in that they have two distinct roles, but they don't really diverge to a degree where there is a tension between them. I see no reason to think that value growth of the company's equity is harmful to our clients who are buying tokens to run the network. And on the other hand, I see no reason why successful adoption of the Care wallet or the platform causes any harm to the equity holder. So they are really two different sides of a coin, if you will, in the sense that we are driving utilization, adoption, and use of our platform and facilitating that through a programmable currency effectively. And we are driving intrinsic value and availability of capital through the equity round, which allows us to serve the other track anyway. So are they distinct? Yes. Are they divergent? No. Are they complementary? In many ways, they are, because you want to have a product that is highly relevant to consumers and clients, and you also want to have maximum number of clients and consumers use the platform. And token supports the first, and equity supports the second. The platform, and token supports the first, and equity supports the second. Okay, I think I have answered most of the questions. I'll wait for a few more. If not, what I recommend to all of you is the following. First, go take a look at the Vidus website, get to know them a bit. If you're interested, certainly understand that they are a key partner in expansion in Asia. And you will expect a series of announcements coming out from us over the next few weeks, both on the product side and the partnership side, and on the client side. So we're very excited about the progress we're making, both on the core company side as well as through this partnership with Vidus. So stay tuned with us on that. The second thing that I'll say is that if you have additional questions about what we are doing, how we are expanding into Asia, what our plans are around the use of funds, anything you want to understand, please feel free to send us questions, and we will post a written Q&A, which will give you answers to your questions if we cannot do another webinar. And third, I encourage you to stay engaged with the company in general and give us your guidance as you have always. I encourage you to stay engaged with the company in general and give us your guidance as you have always done, and ideas and support, very enthusiastic support, as we move the company forward. I also want to take this last few seconds to congratulate the Solve.Care team on winning the most innovative project on blockchain award at the event in Singapore earlier today. We made the announcement on our Telegram chat a few hours ago. It was tremendous achievement by a team that already does so much in a given week that it is incredible that we can also do all these additional marketing and brand building events. And it's really also do all these additional marketing and brand building events. And it's really great to get endorsement from people around the world on our project. We are very proud to be doing everything we can, and I'm very proud to be leading this team. So please join me in thanking the team for their tireless efforts in this and everything else they do. And last thing that I'll say is that I am heading into a major conference in Baltimore tomorrow, where the National Association of Accountable Care Organization Summit is happening. There's an annual event, and there is a lot of interest around the Solve.Care platform, and you will be probably hearing about some of that in an update tomorrow. So stay tuned. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for all your support, and have a wonderful day.